Hi, this is Justin Coletti. You may know me from SonicScoop. Today, I'm with Plug and Alliance and Brainworks, and I'm talking to a fantastic mastering engineer. Really excited for this conversation. It is with a guy named Glenn Schick.
Good morning, Justin. How are you?
Doing great. We are here together on behalf of big thanks to Plug and Alliance, who's releasing a new mastering EQ for digital systems called the AMEK EQ 200, which is one of the reasons we're having this conversation. It is an EQ that was modeled after a Massenburg EQ, I believe the GML 8200, which was one of those first parametric EQs out there that really changed the genre of EQs. And those Massenburg and the Sontec EQs were probably some of the most popular EQs in high-end mastering going forward for another, 40 or so years after they were made. So why do you think that those types of EQs are still relevant and coveted today as pieces of analog hardware? And why are they still relevant today in the digital domain?
So I think there's a couple things that really, are relevant about those. The guys who designed it, George Massenburg and Burgess, those guys not only were engineers, but George is an amazing audio engineer and, musical as well. Mm-hmm. So when he designed the 8200 and his 9500 later, they were done with the thought of making music, not just crunching numbers and, getting the cleanest THD and all that, although they're super clean too. But I think the biggest thing was that he wanted to not hurt the music. And those things are very, very transparent. The reason people like, 8200s and 432 Sontecs are because they're very transparent and they don't really hurt the music. Right. So I think that's probably why they're still so popular.
Yeah, and I think there's a degree of the kind of curation almost of specific frequency points or specific bandwidths. Obviously, you can adjust frequency points and adjust bandwidths, but they're selected by people, like you said, who have been in the studio making records and who are selecting the kind of defaults for bandwidth and frequency selection spots that made sense to them. So having something that's a little bit curated rather than so open-ended, just as like a graphical modern EQ, I can see the attraction to that. What kinds of applications have you been finding the AMEK, the new one? I know you've just been using it for a few weeks now, but in the short time you've had to use it, what have been some of the applications where you're finding it the most useful?
First of all, it's super, super flexible. It's not just an 8200 clone. It's way more than that. And some of the things that I really dug on it, besides the 5 bands that you have here, and you have low pass and high pass filters, you also have a great MS matrix built in here. It has a lot of MS features where you can split the EQ up MS, and especially with MS stuff, because it's sometimes hard to hear things. There's a great audition feature on here called Auto Listen, where you can actually hear just what you're sweeping or frequencies you're selecting. And it also has some character stuff, which the original 8200 didn't really have. So some of the things, they're TMT here, which basically, from what I understand, takes, you can randomize stuff where you could actually have like a slightly different EQ for left and right if you wanted to kind of make it less sterile, or if you wanted to change like a console channel, you could change it to a different console channel. So with the modeling that they've done, it makes it much more than just kind of a stock 8200 clone. It's really quite a versatile EQ, and they have all those great preset frequencies, but you can also vary any of those frequencies to what you want as well, so you're not limited to that. And the other thing that I personally love about this one, a lot of times you'll set up an EQ curve, something you really like, and it just feels a little too little or a little too much. And there's a great feature here called gain scale. And with gain scale, you can actually just, if you have, a smiley face curve and you gain scale, it'll just lessen things or increase things. And if you have something complex with, 6 moves on it that you want to try a little less of or a little more of in percentages of how much EQ applied, it's great.
I love that idea. You can just kind of go a little bit too far to make sure you're really going in the right direction and then scale back on all of it at once. It's a really intuitive way to work. And I have found myself using EQs that don't do that. And they have to go in and be like, all right, okay, well, if I want to tuck this back by 20%, what's 20% of 2.3 dB and what's 20% of 1.3 dB? And it does it all for you. So wonderful, really great function to have. Thanks for giving us a little tour of the AMEK EQ 200. I'm super excited to try this out even deeper myself. I've only had access to it for a short time too, but it is, it feels like a pristine piece of analog gear. All right, big thanks again to Glenn Schick. Thanks to Plugin Alliance and Brainworks for making this conversation possible and for designing that new AMEK EQ 200 plugin that just came out. And thanks to you guys for hanging out with us. See you next time.